Welcome back to the Getting Dressed podcast. I am Anthony Bolognese.
And I'm Leah Nalepa.
And we are talking about custom clothing today, my domain, and I am very excited about this.
I'm too.
Yeah.
I love to hear your hot takes about custom, but I think overall this probably is a topic that should be demystified for a lot of people, because I think overall people think like, oh my gosh, custom, I'll never be able to afford that. Where do I even begin? Mm-hmm. Is it made for women? Question mark.
Yeah.
Where do I go from here? So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on custom.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't really have any, you're welcome to correct me, but I don't think I have any hot takes on custom. I think it's a pretty universally accepted necessity for people.
That's fair.
That might be the hottest of takes, people that disagree with that. But everything within the realm of custom, I think I'm pretty middle of the road. But no, it does actually surprise me on the topic of women's custom, how surprised people are when they hear that I offer that, because it's just such an underserved market, which is ridiculous. And I think that it's a crime.
It is.
I've always had an issue, I think everyone who's ever met a woman has heard a complaint about there not being pockets in pants, or, jackets having fake pockets. It's dumb. I don't understand that. I don't understand why they can't have the same function. And I've heard many conspiracy theories about, why that happens on the, off the rack, but custom is absolutely important. If for nothing else than just having the pockets you want to have.
Totally. Yeah. And the linings, but yes, the pockets. Totally. Quick side note here. But I mean, I work with women who constantly look for suits off the rack, and they're like, my budget is unlimited, or it's, X high. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, go custom, go custom, go custom. And it's just such an unknown topic, or something that's not really fully thought through because it's never been presented to them as an option, other than maybe going to, like a Nordstrom or finding something online, that it's really sad to me, because I think it is such needed in the market, both for men and women. Mm-hmm. But that's more my experience. So before we dive in too much more, I want to hear how you overall kind of came to custom clothes and your love for it. And what are some things that you have generally offered through Capitol Hill Clothiers?
Sure. So my affinity for custom clothing started, and if you want to hear the kind of the full backstory here, you can listen to the first episode with where we introduce ourselves a little bit more fully. But in a roundabout way, when I was freelancing, just doing video editing work, I did work for Gentleman'sGazette.com, and just throughout editing those videos, I learned a lot about the hallmarks of, clothing in general, in a more traditional way for menswear specifically. But in conversation with the owner of that publication, we just kind of got to talking about what custom really is. And one of the videos that we did was the hallmarks of a custom suit and all of the little details that make a custom suit truly custom. And that goes down from, design stuff to obviously the way it fits. Neither he nor I have particularly difficult to fit body types, but it's obviously recognizable that a lot of people do. Whether you're incredibly tall, incredibly built, on the bigger side, whatever your body type is, there's a reason for you to go custom, because everything off the rack is built off of a fit model. And generally speaking, those fit models are, between 38 and 40 chest for men, between 5'11" and like 6'2". Those really don't deviate all that much,
right,
with the exception of, some specialty stores like Big and Tall stuff. But off track. My experience with it, after, learning all that kind of stuff, I moved up to this area and found a lot more of a reason to kind of change that for people. I started working at Men's Wearhouse and selling their made to measure offerings, which were customizable, but they were not truly custom. They were pre-tailored. So a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. If I get a cease and desist, then I'll wipe my ass with it. It's fine. Because this is probably not, secret information.
You swore.
I did.
Just saying. Sorry I broke the mold last time, but here you are.
Well, you re-coined the acronym for BBW last episode, so let's calm down.
You say.
So if you want context for that, listen to episode 3 of the Getting Dressed podcast, because whoa.
We never promised this would be G, okay?
Yeah. Never ever.
We just said educational.
And we are educating. But anyway, so peek behind the curtain for the way that a lot of the made to measure and made to order stuff happens at the retail level. If let's say that you're a 40 chest, 34, 32 pant. if you go to Men's Wearhouse or Joseph A. Bank or any of the other, I would say most of the other retailers that offer made-to-measure services, they will be providing their factory with a blank 38 or 40 chest jacket and then pre-tailoring that to the measurements that the sales associate takes for you. It's a blank because there's certain seams that have not yet been sewn, just the little customization stuff. So the lapel buttonhole, the buttonholes on the sleeves, whether those become functional or not, those are things that can be determined in the design process with the person at the store. But generally speaking, you're getting something that the armholes are already the size they are, the chest is already the size that it is, and then everything else is what gets adjusted before they ship it out to you. And for proper custom, it starts with a pattern that is built for you. So let's say that same person with a 40 chest and 34, 32 pants off the rack goes to see, someone who's doing true custom. They're going to have all of their measurements taken and they're going to have a specific pattern built for their body, which means that the armhole is going to be exactly what they want. If they want a little bit more ability to reach and lift their arms up, then they're going to have a smaller armhole versus just that big, one size fits all armhole for the blanket size 40 that they're going to find off the rack.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people don't know and honestly would have really no reason to know because they didn't work at Men's Wearhouse or any of the other brands that kind of, have that model of custom. That's pretty much my experience with it. With two separate tangents. Sorry.
No. Don't apologize. I think this is really helpful. So if I'm someone who has never done custom before, purchased custom, where do I even begin? Do I start looking up those patterns first? Do I measure myself or do I work with you? Do I work with someone else? I'm a confused customer, but I want to start seeking out that information. So where do I go?
So there's a lot of different ways that custom is being done. I think some of the pioneers of the newest custom technology is actually Articles of Style based out of New York.
Yeah.
Fantastic clothes. Their photography is also fantastic. I have a little bit of a weak spot for that. But Dan Trepanier is a kind of a trailblazer when it comes to the modern custom experience. And part of it is a business model thing. It's you basically just take pictures of yourself and send it online, like through their portal, and they kind of work with you to build a pattern virtually. And then when it comes time for you to actually have a basting garment, they'll send that to you. You'll wear that. They'll see how that lays on you. And you get kind of this whole bespoke experience without ever having to be in store. You can still go into their flagship in New York, but if you wanted to do it, if you live in Japan and you wanted an Articles of Style suit, you'd be able to do that by sending pictures of yourself and some basic measurements and then kind of mailing back and forth the garment as it gets built. There are also services overseas like M Tailor and a couple of other ones where you just kind of do your own measurements or upload your own measurements, whether you take them yourself or you have a tailor take them and kind of design your thing through their portal and then they'll send it to you. Those are obviously going to be a lot less expensive just because they are made overseas and it's direct to consumer. It's kind of the Warby Parker across the ocean. And then I would say, and I'm obviously biased toward this because I offer this, but the in-person custom experience is something that you can just honestly Google, like custom clothing near me or custom suits near me or made to measure near me or something like that. And you can weed through some of the more commonly known names. Like you're going to see J. Hilburn representatives. You're going to see Men's Wearhouse and Joseph A. Bank. You're going to see Suit Supply and Indochino, all of which have their respective merits at their price points. But finding something that is kind of local to you, someone who has expertise, someone who has a boutique, or they're offering in whatever way they have it to go through with you and kind of create that full customer service experience of designing your suit or whatever garment you're getting custom made and kind of making it a whole learning experience for you, going through all the details, teaching you exactly what works for your body, evaluating your wardrobe, even just through like a verbal interview to see what your preferences are, all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of sweet spot that I think that makes a custom customer for life. Outside of the fact that, once they get the final fit, assuming the person did it right, the final fit is definitely something that converts somebody for life to go custom.
Totally. Yeah. I think you kind of have that aha moment of, damn, I feel good right now.
Yeah.
And I've never had anything fit me this well. I completely agree with you. Just like nail in the coffin. I think you brought this up, but like when it comes to in person, that's a lot different than this fast fashion, instant gratification world we live in. Is that an obstacle that you've had to overcome, or conversely, is that something that customers actually really enjoy? Do they like that in-person element? It's a little bit slower, a little bit more catered. What are your thoughts?
I've had mixed experiences. Some people are looking for custom because, let's say they're getting married and they've got a date on the calendar a year from now, and they've got plenty of time, and they and their spouse want to go through the whole process and learn and build something completely unique for that day that's important to them. Those are the fun ones. I have plenty of lead time. They're very invested in the process. They're not just, I need a black suit and then shut the door. Like, those aren't generally the customers that I get. But there are, I think the biggest thing that I run into is that people have a very short span of time between wanting a custom suit and then needing that custom suit. And that's something that, there is possibility for that, but you're going to cut some certain corners, like not being able to have a custom lining designed for you or something like that.
Right.
And you're definitely going to pay more in the rush sense of things. But it is actually a little bit shocking to me how few people are as invested in the design process as I would expect of, I guess, the clientele looking into custom, especially the level of custom service that I offer. Going to them, bringing, whiskey, cigars, whatever, and making it a whole experience. Like, I kind of assume that people who are pulling the trigger on, booking an appointment with me at that level are the people who are really going to want to get down to the nitty gritty and figure out exactly, what they can make that is absolutely unique, something they've never had before, something nobody else has. And though I do get some of those clients, it is definitely a little bit shocking to me how many people just kind of give me that, I need a blue suit, and then defer to me for pretty much every design decision. It's something that I still in the situation during the fitting try to teach them. And ask them what their current stuff is, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and kind of get a feel, maybe even educate them on what they like.
I was going to say, do you think that's a lack of education or just a lack of training to even realize that's an option? Because I know you mentioned this in the process.
Yeah, I really don't know. And it's one of those delicate situations where you can't really do you know what you like? Right. Like that's a little bit bold.
What
to
are
ask
your hobbies? Let's put that in a lining.
Yeah. And that's honestly how I frame it. People who I can tell are kind of going down that road where they don't really know what they want. I'll make a lot of suggestions for, their lining. Like if you have a favorite movie or a favorite band or like your alma mater, or sports team or dog or like family photos or like whatever you want on the inside. Like there's absolutely no limit. I can do that for you. And some people will still just no, I just want a solid blue. And there's nothing wrong with that. I say that with a little bit of disdain just because I am not that person.
You're sending people out here, Anthony. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, I am not that person, but I have no qualms about offering that for those that want it. But it is, I feel that it is a part of my job to help people get out of their own box.
Yeah. I appreciate that. What have been your favorite parts of custom, both for yourself as well as for the clients that you've worked with?
For myself, I really, really do like working with people who have a clear idea of what they want. Like people who see something from an influencer online or see something from another brand online and then DM me that post and they're like, can you do this? I'm like, absolutely, I can do that.
So cool.
I had a customer last year who sent me a picture of something from Chanel. And it was a beautiful silhouette. It was a skort suit, all white, double-breasted, meant to be worn open, gold buttons. Like it was just a whole look. It was very, very Chanel. And she sent it to me, and she was like, "I want this, but not from them, from you." Which, first of all, that touched my heart, made me super happy.
As it should.
But also, it was a really fun process to kind of do that fitting because it was a type of fitting that is, less traditional than the normal silhouettes that I'm used to doing. So I got to take some extra measurements. We got to do some kind of trial and error just in the measurement process of like theoretically if wrapping a fabric around is this as loose as you would want it? Do you want the opportunity to close it? Like all the little details and creating a custom pattern for somebody is that level of just extra that I love.
It's like the sprinkles on top.
Yeah. And the part that I actually really find satisfying just perceiving it from the customer is when I am able to get them out of their box it is a lot of fun to see their face when they like open the garment bag upon delivery. And they see if I just did one yesterday. A guy bought a more traditional wedding suit for himself, but he also got a maroon hopsack full suit.
Oh my gosh.
And it was gorgeous. Amazing fabric.
How beautiful.
And he did a custom lining from an artist that his wife and I both know. And it was a beautiful piece, and just his face seeing it was fantastic.
Incredible.
And his wife's face seeing it on him was even more fantastic, because I could tell she was just like, she was super excited to see her friend's art in it and see him in a suit that she never would have expected him in. So it was absolutely beautiful. And another part of that, even if it is a more traditional suit, the lining. I did the wedding suit. He did a Washington Capitals lining. So I did a collage of all of the newspaper and magazine, front pages and covers from when they won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago.
Wow.
And he was super, super happy about it.
I love that. If for no other reason, to just get a plethora of custom, it's for the linings.
Yeah.
I mean, the linings are just impeccable.
I mean, you're a customer of mine. I think the only reason you wanted custom from me is because you saw that lining in my
That is true.
suit.
I mean, I wanted a well-fitting suit, but that is true. The lining that I will say, a quick plug for Anthony, the lining that he created for me was absolutely stunning. And I think you have it in one of your suit jackets too.
That's how you wanted it.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yes. And it's basically old pictures of the building of the DC monuments. And it's just stunning. I had never seen pictures like this. And of course, I love DC. And so when it just immediately captured my attention. I was like, I need that on my back. It's so beautiful and just so representative of so many things that I love here. So yeah, you did an excellent job with that.
Appreciate that. And I really don't want this to be a plug for me. Given the fact that this is a podcast that goes everywhere, there is absolutely no reason for me to be peddling myself.
I know, but it was just such
hyper local.
You're right.
But I appreciate it. But no, the custom lining thing is also something that I feel like is the easiest. I'm going to call it an upsell because I don't have a word that comes to mind to replace that. But just getting people to get custom linings, both because it is fun and they are paying custom money. They should have that extra little piece that shows that it's custom, both for themselves to know that it's there, and also for, if you have the jacket open, just being able to see a bold lining that you've never seen before. It starts a conversation, and it's fun. Yeah. You make friends, even if you're not actively into style. Like, people are going to comment on something that they find impressive or interesting. So I think custom is also a good networking tool.
Yeah, good conversation starter, for sure. What have been some of the craziest designs that you've either created or that you've seen in suits, linings, whatever it might be?
Sure. So there are some customizations that, as a white man, I am not able to say out loud, but I'll let your mind wander.
Oh boy.
The customer requested it, and I am all about customer service, so I oblige. But the first thing that comes to mind really is, if any of you have ever followed MMA or seen anything about MMA in the past, Conor McGregor had a very iconic suit. I believe Gladson made it for him several years ago, and it was a royal blue with white pinstripe suit, but up close, the pinstripes said, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you," all the way down. And I have a customer who just really is a big fan of Conor McGregor. Let's say was a big fan of Conor McGregor before his social collapse, and really wanted that suit. So we did that suit for him.
Incredible.
He also did along the same line. He did a double-breasted jacket, white with black pinstripes, but the pinstripes are the entire First Amendment of the Constitution.
Wow. What a power move.
Right. And the inside is the painting of the Constitutional Convention. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. And I really wanted it to be a full suit. Maybe I'll get him to do the Second Amendment as pants. Get a couple holsters in there.
There you go. That is just really stunning to think about. So when it comes to, like, let's think more about the logistics between men and women. Like, what are some of the obstacles or the major differences that you've seen in your experience between men's custom wear and women's custom wear? Obviously, they have different body types, but is there more that we're not thinking of as it relates to doing custom for either of those?
Yes. So I think this is actually something that is starting to become more of a thing for men as well. But women have always had the option to have I guess, more stretchy materials, even in their business wear. So having the expectation of going from something that's maybe a spandex blend or a lycra blend, or even a poly blend, like a stretchier polyester, I think the expectation of fit is just inherently different for a lot of women. Having something that is literally painted on because that's what you're used to wearing off the rack.
Right.
That's not something that can necessarily happen comfortably with 100% wool. Let's use pants as the example. Across the thighs, you need to have a little bit of extra fabric there so that when you sit down and your thighs squish out, you're not, ripping them at the seams, and you're not uncomfortable sitting down. And the same goes for men. That's since the pandemic, a lot of men are into more stretchy stuff. I know I am, but they're also not aware that wool has a natural stretch, but not nearly as much as all the synthetic materials.
Right.
So that's a big thing that I've noticed. And obviously, you mentioned the different body types in general. Measuring for the bust, measuring for the seat, the crotch measurements are going to be a little bit different. It's just depending on the person. And some people like a more masculine jacket. Generally speaking, women have far more slender shoulders. So the padding in there is a bit of a conversation. I generally like to do very minimal, if any, padding on the shoulders. And the only reason that I will deviate from that is if it is one of those like Chanel inspired, like bold shoulder paddy kind of looks.
Sure. More 80s, 90s vibe.
Yeah. Or if it's somebody who has severely sloped shoulders or a severely sloped shoulder, whether it be from an injury or surgery, or just, if they're a professional arm wrestler and they only use one arm, like whatever the thing is, having padding to kind of even out their shoulders so that there's not a collar roll in the back and there's not this weird kind of horizontal or diagonal draping across the back. That's an important thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we kind of wrap up here, what are some of your biggest takeaways from custom? So obviously you have custom clothes, you have a lot of friends and colleagues that have custom clothes. If you were to persuade someone like why custom versus anything else, outside the linings and the good fit, is there anything else that we've really missed in this conversation that you're like, yes, custom, and that's where it's at?
We did touch on it a little bit, but a lot of it comes down to the feeling of custom. If you've ever bought, in the women's world, maybe a nice, like a very expensive, nice purse, or a very high end pair of shoes or something like that, you feel different wearing those.
You do.
Even if it's not explicitly a comfort thing, if you're wearing a pair of Louboutins, you're wearing a pair of Louboutins. You walk differently because you're wearing a pair of Louboutins. And I've heard nasty things about their level of comfort, lack thereof. With custom, though, you're wearing a full custom suit and it feels better than any suit that you've ever worn before. With the rare exception of if you are the exact person that is the fit model size for everything off the rack and everything off the rack just magically fits you, you're not a good custom customer unless you really, 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 really value the style aspect of it, which could be very true. But generally speaking, for most of the population, being able to have something that truly fits you well and gives you that kind of elevated sense of self, there is really nothing like that.
I completely agree with you. People's body types change though. Gain weight, lose weight. Is there an option after you get your custom pieces to take things in, let them out a little bit?
Yes. So, and this is going to be very dependent on the person and their general, I guess, wardrobe decisions in the first place. I generally recommend getting stuff a little bit bigger than you would normally expect to, with the purpose of being able to expand into them, and not bigger by a full size, but bigger in just the right places. Going maybe half an inch larger at the waist so that you can fit a full Thanksgiving meal in there, and having the side adjusters to be able to cinch that up without having to, have a belt, or just having a belt. That also works. Having a good tailor is useful regardless of the clothing that you get, whether it's off the rack or not. The base elements of a suit are across the chest, the shoulders, and the waist and the seat and the crotch. So generally speaking, those are not going to, with any insane severity, change that much. The waist is probably your biggest thing, but in every pair of pants, custom included, there is an extra 2, maybe 3 inches of fabric that can be let out. As far as taking stuff in, it can be taken in pretty much to nothing, with the exception of maybe, let's say you were like 500 pounds and got liposuction and went down to like 200, you're probably going to need new clothes. But short of that, a good tailor can take care of pretty much everything. And generally speaking, a lot of the custom offerings that you're going to find will either come with free alterations for life, or for, you know, a certain duration or X amount of alterations after the fact. So definitely take advantage of that. And I am guilty of the same. I know that you and your husband are as well.
Totally. Yep.
Just, you know, eventually getting a little bit too COVID comfortable and eating your way out of a suit. So
literally.
But no, letting stuff out. I mean, generally, just don't ask for something to be painted on. I've fit some of the football players have for some reason just been the most difficult ones to convince that they didn't need something painted on, which is unfortunately because they're built like refrigerators, and it's kind of hard to fit something for someone who's as like bulbous as a professional athlete is. Specifically in the you know, defensive line on a football team.
Yes,
they're a tough one, but yeah.
I could see that being a little bit of a challenge. Absolutely. I guess just to add to this, like, I absolutely advocate, especially for women, but also men, the custom way is the way to go. Of course, it's going to be a little bit pricier, but it's going to be absolutely worth it. You feel great. You look great. Your confidence is totally elevated. And it can ultimately just be an awesome customization of who you are, what you like to do, all the things that Anthony mentioned. And you can stand out in the workplace too, but also, you know, more in a casual setting as well. I think it's very noticeable when someone has custom versus when they don't, because you look like $1 million. Mm-hmm. And you, to me, I gravitate towards people who look that sharp and look that confident. And so why not go that route? Why wouldn't you want to feel that great about yourself, about what you're wearing, about how you're tackling everyday life?
Definitely.
Do it in a custom suit.
Definitely.
So I love custom. Anthony, thank you so much for your thoughts today. I know the meat and potatoes of our conversation today was on you, and I really appreciate you educating me, but also all of our listeners. So excited for our next episode and appreciate your time.
You too.
Cool.
Bye.